crap. I don't know who the hell we think we are when we do something like that.
What's up, fight fans? This is the Combat Connection, and I'm your host, Brett Cagle. We are here live on the Cageside Press social media platforms and have a loaded show for you today. We're going to recap the PFL World Championships and look ahead to the UFC 310 Pantoja versus Asakura pay-per-view this weekend. All right, Eddie, let's get into the PFL World Championships, which were decided last weekend in Abu Dhabi. We had in the main event Timur Khizriev facing Brendan Loughnane with kind of really a dominant decision victory here. Brendan Loughnane, many thought, was the favorite going into this tournament. Timur Khizriev, the undefeated fighter acquired from Bellator, comes in here, really showcases his grappling in this one. Left Brendan really a bloody mess at the end of 25 minutes. And for Loughnane, it was kind of disheartening after dropping his second world championship in consecutive years. What'd you make of this one, and how impressed were you with Timur's performance?
Look, Timur is a dominant kind of guy, and I think what surprised me, not surprised me, but what impressed me the most is just stayed standing, right? Where we've seen Brendan do really well before. Now, seeing Brendan get beat up like that to me was like, because, we watched, everyone watched it, everyone, later in the day watched it, but Brendan being beat down like a bloody mess, I mean, it looked like Timur made him hesitate so much, right? Timur made him think like way too much, and Brendan just couldn't get anything going. And so I was very impressed with Timur, but I can't say I didn't expect him to win. I thought he was going to win that. I thought he was going to find a finish, but you got to hand it to Brendan. Brendan's way too tough to stop.
Yeah, and I feel like the grappling threat of Khizriev really opened up stuff for him on the feet. Brendan was kind of looking for those takedowns and maybe got caught with some shots that he wouldn't have got caught with against other guys, because he certainly would be looking for the striking. Now, as far as Timur Khizriev is concerned, really young, 27 years of age here. He's got a long career ahead of him. He's going to be able to potentially get back in there and compete for another championship next year. Maybe he tries to go, fight in a different division. We'll see what he does there. Maybe it'll get stagnant, him fighting against some of the same guys. Or maybe he takes a year off, like some of the Russian fighters in the past that we've seen win the tournament do. Jesus Pineda just did it again last year. But yeah, for Brendan here, I don't know where he goes, because he keeps going through these playoffs, and it seems like he's always, he got the victory over Bubba Jenkins the year he won it. And since then, it's really just been long roads back to disappointment for him in these title fights. How many years do you think Brendan Loughnane has left going through this rigorous playoff schedule?
It's a lot, dude. 4 fights in 1 year. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot just for matchmakers, right? We've seen some guys in the UFC, for example, fight 3-4 times, and the next year they try to do it again, and injury always hits. It's almost inevitable they're going to get injured. It's just you cannot put your body through that kind of rigorous training preparation and then an actual fight, without paying the price. It's the price for everything. Price to do this is heavy for these guys. So can Brendan keep doing it? Sure. Should he? No. And we talk about some of these Russian fighters, they take break, they take time off, whatever. They're smart. They know they got to recover. I think Brendan should take that approach. He's not starving. He's not doing bad money wise. He's doing all right. He just won last year, and I'm sure he's doing great, now. And he seems like a smart guy, so I'm sure he's got investments going and everything. But I think he needs to take time off. He needs to go away for a little bit, breathe, get his body right, and then think about coming back. Do you really want to come back? Do you not? See what happens. Now, I tried to look it up earlier and I couldn't find it. Do you know anything about his contract? Like how it's going to work with PFL?
I don't. I'd assume that he's got to be one of the highest paid guys over there. Sure. I know, they give away the $1 million with the World Championships, but he's a guy that brings fans to the stadium in Europe, and somebody that's certainly marketable if they go into Ireland, France, and the United Kingdom. So maybe they want to keep him around, but who knows? I'd like to see him maybe go over and test his foot in the Bellator side of things. If they keep that around, maybe fight twice next year and stay, in some sort of schedule, but not necessarily take himself out of competition completely. But the 4 times continuously fighting against the competition that he's been fighting against, it's just a lot to ask for someone, who's been doing it for 3-4 years in a row. But for Khizriev, his potential is really impressive. I think the sky's the limit for this guy. And when you look at him compared to some of the people in the UFC at the 145-pound division, I think he'd do really well. We're going to talk about Movsar Evloev and Aljamain Sterling here later on this show in our second segment. But I think Timur Khizriev matches up right with those guys skill for skill. He's younger than them. He's got the grappling credentials just like Evloev. And I think he's better on the feet than Evloev as well. When you see the spinning kicks and creative techniques that Timur is able to pull off at times, he's a very good athlete. He's a plus athlete for someone who's 145 pounds and doesn't necessarily have the biggest frame in the world for the weight class either. Do I think that he could compete right now with Ilia Topuria? Maybe not. I think that'd be a really hard matchup for him. I think Topuria, we're talking about a historically great fighter. He reminds me a lot of John Jones on his come up. It seems like any matchup, Topuria really has, the answers for it. So I think that Timur Khizriev, the top 10 talent in the world, but here in the PFL, I think he's going to be able to make a name for himself. And I don't really see anyone testing that undefeated record here in this promotion.
I mean, you never know. Like that's the beauty and the curse of the tournament. The beauty is you get to find out. Like, you don't get a choice. If you win, you're fighting that guy for sure. Or the winner of the other fight, you have no other chance. The curse of the tournament is matchups, right? Some of these matchups suck. Let's be honest. There's not good matchups. That's the reason why I have an issue with the tournament style being that, right? So that's the thing. And just real quick, going back to Brendan fighting, maybe twice next year, maybe taking a year off, whatever. I just wonder what his concern is when it comes to these fighters that come out recently, Patrick Mix, Higo, Corey Anderson, guys like that. We talked about you guys talked about the last show with Bando, inactivity, lack of being given fights. Those guys they're not scrubs. They're not prelim fighters. Those guys are main card fighters. Those guys are names, and they're not getting fights. What are the chances they shelve Brendan, right? If I'm him, I need some assurances. I really do from them before I go, hey, I'm gonna pump the brakes here. I'll go headline a Bellator, or I'll do like a PFL super fight, something like that, with my good contract. It's just, you guys got to make sure you give me that. If you don't give me that, we're gonna have a real issue. That's the only reason. Like, I would, if he doesn't get the answer he's looking for, where I think he might push it and try for the tournament one more time. But we'll see, man. He's a wild boy. He's a wild boy. We'll find out.
And there are matchups for him. I just mentioned Pinedo, who took a year off this year. That was the last guy before Khizriev to defeat Loughnane. Maybe they run it back, have some sort of rematch there. And like you were saying, a PFL super fight card. You could certainly put Loughnane on the main card with Francis Ngannou. But with what you're talking about with Bellator guys, we're going to get into it. 3 of the 6 champions last weekend were former Bellator fighters. Dovled Yagshimuradov was somebody who was almost forgotten about in his own division inside of the Bellator rankings. And, he comes out of nowhere and then goes in, Dovled here goes and wins a world title and makes himself not a household name, but, puts himself in the history books here for mixed martial arts. And we had Khizriev as well. And then who was our third champion from Bellator here? Gadzi Rabadanov. Yeah, Gadzi. All these guys, tremendous. And there were great Bellator performers throughout this season this year. Liz Carmouche getting to a semifinal as well. Mm-hmm. That was a close fight with Taila Santos. She could have easily been in this. I think she could have put up a better fight against Dakota as well. Way better. So the main event, Timur Khizriev defeats Brendan Loughnane. It was a dominant performance, one that really was a statement maker for him. Moving on to the co-main event from last weekend in the PFL. The PFL has a new face, and it's Dakota Ditcheva, maybe the best women's fighter alive right now. We're going to talk about it. Defeats Taila Santos, former UFC title challenger. Previously to this, Santos had not lost since leaving the UFC. And her last 2 losses were to Valentina Shevchenko and upstart contender Erin Blanchfield. Nothing to be worried about there necessarily. But in this one, she looked really bad on the feet compared to Dakota. She wasn't able to get this fight to the ground when she wanted to and was finished by a standing TKO with body shots. Were you surprised that Taila Santos, got taken out that way? It looked like some people online were saying that she was giving up. I thought that, she was taking some hard shots from Dakota there, who was able to use elbows for the first time in her career and looked good doing it, adding it to her arsenal. What'd you make of Dakota's performance? And were you kind of, disappointed in the showing from Taila Santos?
So first of all, we all knew about Dakota. We've known about Dakota for a minute now, right? She's showing up the last couple of times. She became a star on Friday. That a bona fide star. If Don Davis was looking for somebody to finally actually go and promote and push, finally, hey Don, if you're watching, this is the girl. Get this girl on every commercial you can get, on every TV show you can get, and decked out in PFL gear, talking PFL. Donnie, free lunch here, bro. Free lessons. I'm giving you free game, Donnie. This girl right here, she's going to get you where you want to go, okay? I'm a believer in Dakota Ditcheva. Dude, she's a full package. First of all, we never seen Tyler Santos get finished ever. She was the first girl to finish Santos ever in her career, okay? That's a huge statement coming up, fighting a former UFC title challenger, right? And so she comes in and she made it look easy. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
Tyler couldn't get close. Anytime she even came close, like Dakota's jab was there. And then when she did get close, it was an elbow coming for her head. It was, Santos did not expect, I don't know what she expected, but I guess she didn't expect that kind of game plan because she was eating shots everywhere. So to get finished the way she did on the feet, that was sad. I was a little disappointed in that. But at the same time, knowing the kind of fighter Tyler Santos is, and people can, crap on the women's divisions all they want to, kick rocks with that shit. But, she's still one of the toughest females on the planet, Santos is, okay? And she just got finished by the new face of PFL. And Donnie, this is your girl. Get Donnie.
Get her on the Wheaties box.
Call all your friends. You're an entrepreneur and a businessman. You're not a promoter, okay? So call your homies. Be like, hey, I need you to put my girl on everything. What you got? A bus? Boom. Put her face on a bus.
She does. She needs to be on first take.
Everywhere.
To be in the commercials with Celsius.
Get her everywhere.
She's got the look, and then when you see her fight, she's violent. This girl is so mean. Me and you were texting off air about this girl. She reminded us of Carlos Condit, the natural-born killer, a guy who would go in there with a mean streak to him, trying to get you out of there with style points. That's how Dakota is. When you saw her at the face-off, she didn't touch gloves with Tyler Santos on fight night. And at the weigh-in, she was mean-mugging her. Same thing with Jenna Bishop. She kind of finds a way in her head to motivate herself like all the greats do, like we see with John Jones. When he just fought Stipe, he finds something that Stipe said in an interview about his family to motivate him, to give him that extra gear. It seems like Dakota really has the mental game to go along with the skill set. She's a scary, scary contender moving forward.
No, and the thing with her is, and you're right, that the Jordan technique is what I call it, right? Michael Jordan making up a story about LeBradford Smith, and I know I'm way older, but still, like, make a story, a story about LeBradford Smith, right? 37 points as a rookie against Michael Jordan. Jordan made up that walking out the floor, Bradford talks to him and goes, hey, man, nice game, Mike. And Michael Jordan said, I'm going to have what this kid in the game had in the last game in the first half of the next game, because they played back-to-back in Washington. That's what happened. He embarrassed the kid, right? But he made it up. It wasn't real. He admitted a decade later that it was BS, right? Yeah. The greats find a way to motivate themselves to find a game within a game. Kobe did it awesome. Rest in peace. LeBron finds a way to do it. Everyone finds a way to do it, right? Mm-hmm. But when a fighter does like Dakota did, I mean, after the fight, first of all, she's the full package. Highly skilled. All right. Incredibly entertaining on the mic when you get her in an interview, right? And she could get a little better, but she's only 26. She's growing. Okay. Looker. Okay. Easy on the eyes. All right. Let's be honest. All right. I saw a lot of people going like, man, does she have an OnlyFans on Twitter the entire fight? Okay. And then
she's too good for one of them. You got to lose about 5 fights in a row or retire. But
you got to go. You got to be a Jessica eye level at that point. No offense, Jessica, but like,
she's the most marketable fighter in the PFL.
That's the point.
Right now, she might be the most marketable fighter in the sport because she's got that potential to rise. Like we see Conor McGregor, his market value is kind of capped. All that Conor can do is slide down. The sky's the limit for Dakota Ditcheva, and the more people that find out about her, or the more people that are going to be impressed and tune in and, potentially be PFL watchers and fight fans. So,
and she's got swag, dude. After the fight, she's like, what's up? You got beat up by a
model with the lipstick?
Dude, it was, she's got it all. Donnie, damn it, Donnie. Call Stephen A. right now.
For real. I mean, they're partners with ESPN. She should be on Around the Horn.
She should be on everything.
On these shows, man.
The day after the fight, she should have been on everything. I swear. Dropping the ball, Donnie.
The sky's the limit for Dakota Ditcheva. We're 100%. Very excited to see what she'll do moving forward. It looks like she may be one of the best strikers in the entire sport, and maybe one of the best in the sport. Now, actually, lastly on Dakota, I have it in here. Do you think she could, we're talking about her potential market-wise. Could she be the next Ronda Rousey? Now, Rousey was a great grappler. She had a different way of finishing people with the arm bars on Miesha Tate and Kat Zingano. She had the finish over Alexis Davis, but she wasn't getting girls out of there like Dakota Ditcheva is in style. Do you think she could maybe surpass Ronda Rousey, or does she have to go to the UFC to get that market machine behind her to get that kind of recognition.
To a T, what you just said. The market machine. PFL clearly doesn't have it, or just isn't using it, or doesn't know how to do it. Whatever it is, and again, I'm not shitting the PFL. I said last night on my MMA Nightcap show, I said I want this to work. I want you guys to become actually competitive, or at least start trying to be competitive with UFC. But no, here's the thing: she could do it. I think she could do it. Okay. Now remember, Ronda Rousey back in Strikeforce. You and I, the hardcores, we all knew who Ronda Rousey was. We knew she was a badass, great looking girl, and everything. She was killing it, right? And had great on the mic, everything, right?
Judo Olympian.
Yeah, exactly. But she didn't blow up until she got the UFC marketing machine, right? First fight she had, Dana goes up with the belt. Like, all right, she's our champion. Boom. First fight she does, gets put in a really tough spot against Gorilla.
Yeah, Liz Carmouche.
Thank you. Liz Carmouche almost takes her out with jiu-jitsu on the back. And she takes her out and takes the arm. And then it's like armbar. And people call her a one-trick pony. It's like, what? Stop this one-trick pony then, dude. Guess you can't, right? So Dakota has that potential, I think, where she's able to put on some more finishes, right? And if they actually market her, she's definitely trying to market herself, by the way. She doesn't do that a lot. She needs to start doing that. But if she can get a marketing machine, whether it's PFL or UFC, dude, she goes UFC, and the first fight she has, kind of like Rainier DeRitter just did, right? First fight she has, she gets a finish, and it's an impressive one. Dana's gonna see dollar signs and be like, I gotta push this girl. I guarantee Dana's watching her right now.
If she won one fight in the UFC, kind of like a Kayla Harrison did with her showcase against Holly Holm, I think she'd be the most famous women's fighter alive. I think it would only take one fight in the UFC, which is kind of frustrating when you look at the PFL, because they're putting her through the playoff system, but she doesn't necessarily, have the opponent. She just ran through Taiwo Santos. Santos ran through everybody else. So what do you go throw her to an aged Liz Carmouche? Really, it's hard to find the matchups in her weight class. Maybe she goes back into the PFL playoffs and just tries to win it for the second time. But Ronda Rousey certainly is credited with growth from the UFC. We'll see if Dakota Ditcheva can help in giving that same growth to the PFL moving forward.
Donnie, free game, Donnie. We're helping you. God damn. Sorry. To me, he's the most frustrating figure in MMA, bar none to me. Anyway, but yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, absolutely.
We could talk about that at length.
Yeah.
When I was covering Bellator, the last ever Bellator fight under the Showtime banner was in Chicago, and that fight was packed out, 8,000 in the Wintrust Arena. When they came back in May for PFL 3, with actually a lot of the same fighters, Timur Khizriev competed on both of those cards. They sold 4,000 seats and couldn't get the upper deck. So there is something that's not quite clicking there with. I think with upper management, but hopefully through trial and error, they can figure it out. But someone who did figure it out this weekend was veteran Dovlet Yagshimuradov. We talked about him being a Bellator veteran. And I was telling Zan, we both are really high on Impa, and Impa is one of the best guys in mixed martial arts. He's a great ambassador for the sport, a great character, human being. But Dovlet Yagshimuradov is a tough customer. He's good on the ground. He's got the grappling background, and we saw what he did this weekend on the feet. One-shot knockout power, even for a guy who's stockier and build, can pull off some of those creative spinning techniques that we've seen him do in the past, but he didn't really need it in this one. Impa came in on him, pushing him up against the cage, and then was hit with a barrage of punches himself while retreating here, and Yagshimuradov gets the knockout victory. How impressed were you with Dovled? And of all the fighters, in my opinion, on this card, he really went from rags to riches, the rags to riches story more than anyone, because some people, even hardcores, didn't know who Dovled was in the beginning of this playoffs. But now, he defeats Ipika Sanganai, is a millionaire and a PFL world champion. So what's your opinion really on his story throughout this PFL playoffs?
Very impressed, because a lot of his fights haven't been that entertaining, right? And for him to be able to come in and do what he did to Impa Sanganai is one of the faces of PFL, even now, right? But the way he's able to dismantle him the way he did, man, that was tough to watch. As someone that I like Impa, I think Impa's a great dude, first of all, and I think he's a fun fighter to watch. Everyone talks about the highlight that Buckley had with him back in the day, but this was rough to watch, honestly, because I'm an Impa fan. But it was Dovlet seeing his opportunity to shine and grabbing that thing as hard as he could and making it happen. So, and now he's a millionaire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before taxes.
I agree. I really felt like he knew that he had one opportunity at this.
Yeah.
You know, being the unknown guy from Bellator, he probably had a chip on his shoulder all year that if I don't make it to these playoffs and have a good showing, they might not bring me back. You know, so I think that Dovled, like you said, really grabbed it by the throat and took it home this year, and it was a great performance by him. Taking the 185-pound title, but he also beat Rob Wilkerson on the way to the championship, or the 205-pound title. I'm sorry. He also beat Robert Wilkerson in this one, in this playoffs, who hadn't lost since Izzy. So, you know, he really ran through two of the faces in the PFL, and I'm sure the upper management of the PFL thought they were going to get Impa and Rob in the final this year, but Dovled turns them both back, and as an underdog becomes PFL world champion. Moving on to welterweights, we had both undefeated fighters, Shamil Musayev and Magomed Umlatov, both credentialed grapplers. But Shamil Musayev was on a reign of terror this PFL season, takes the 0 of Murad Ramazanov and then defeats him again, knocked out Logan Storley in Chicago and really put his name on the map with his first performance in the PFL season this year. But in this main event, we had Magomed Umlatov, who was widely regarded as the favorite in this tournament coming in. People thought that his grappling would be too much and he would really run away from this one. But Shamil Musayev defeats his second undefeated fighter en route to PFL Gold. How impressed were you with Musayev this year? And does he rank up there with some of the best welterweights in the world? Personally, given the eye test, you know, he's a silver medalist in wrestling with the Russian national team at one point, and comes in here and defeats a combat sambo world champion, you know, viciously by knockout in Umlatov, who is a great fighter and will bounce back well after this loss. I think he's one of the best welterweights in the world, regardless of promotion, when you look at his talent.
No, I was impressed with Shamil, but I wasn't surprised. Shamil Musayev is a full package fight-wise, in my opinion. He's got everything. Clearly, he showed hands. He showed hands. He showed striking. He showed toughness. He's got the cardio. At least in this fight he did, and he's got the wrestling he didn't even have to use, right? So it's just learn English, dog. That's it. Learn English and get your personality out here, Shamil, and you could be a star for the PFL, right? I expected that to happen, honestly. Like I did. I like him all top just like everybody else does, and he's a great fighter. But I think Shamil Musayev is like just took his shot. He's like, I'm the sheriff now. I'm here now, and he took the title. He took $1 million. The thing with Musayev is that he looks like a serial killer, first of all. So we need him to like soften up a little bit or lean into that being scary shit. But like he needs to like soften up a little bit, learn just a little bit of English here and there, say a few words, you know, and everything. Like most of these guys, especially the Russians that won on Friday, right? The guys that don't speak English, right? They learned a little bit, man. I kid you not. The main market is English speaking countries. Let's be completely honest about it. It's not Russia, right? It's not Dagestan. It's not Kyrgyzstan. None of the stans. None of the Russian is the main audience. It's the U.S. It's Europe. English speaking countries, right, for the most part. So learn a little bit of that. Market yourself a little bit. You could be somebody. Do something here. But I wasn't surprised, and I was very happy for him because he just seems like he might be like that weird kid that sits in the back of the classroom to me that, you know, you kind of want to be friends with just in case he's a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like he seems that kind of guy. So
yeah, he's a cold, calculated killer.
Exactly.
You know, he stalks these guys down. He's like, all right, shoot a takedown. He kind of forces them to either shoot or back up. And as we saw with Logan Storley, when you go on the retreat, this guy's got one-shot knockout power, you know, and the power in his hands for someone who's a grappler is very uncommon. We don't normally see that. And he doesn't have the striking technique of an Alex Pereira or one of these highly technical kickboxers, but it doesn't really matter because he's getting the job done and can do it both ways, like you mentioned, with the wrestling or with the hands. Shamil Musayev, to me, when you look at welterweight in the UFC right now, I think he could compete with Bilal Muhammad. We're going to have a great fight that we're going to talk about this weekend with Shavkat and Ian Garry. I think those would be great matchups. If I'm the UFC and looking to poach someone from the PFL, I really think that it's Shamil Musayev right now. He's in the prime of his career, undefeated. But like you were saying, he's going to have to learn a little bit of English to reach that next level of superstardom with the casual fan.
100%. And again, like if he has just a little bit of English, he gets to the UFC, he could be somebody. Now, how he stacks up against the division in the UFC, who knows? It's a stacked one. So it's to be seen. I'd like to see it. If I'm completely honest, I don't think we will.
No.
But I'd like to see it, honestly.
No, yeah. If I'm the PFL and Don Davis, this is kind of an eye-opening talent that you've just seen come and run through. You're the favorite of your playoffs, the guy you thought was going to get all the way through it. Knocks him out. I think if you're Don Davis and company, I think you got to sign Shamil Musayev, re-sign him almost immediately to a multi-year deal. He's just that type of talent, and with him and Kizriev, you really have top-tier phenoms that are undefeated that you can promote and get behind. Especially coming from the country that they come from. Now, moving on to the lightweight division here, we had an impressive performance from Gadzi Rabadanov, who defeated former Bellator lightweight champion Brent Primus. Brent Primus, in my opinion, in this one, showed age for the first time in his career. At 37 years old, we hadn't seen Brent really slow down. He rattled off wins against Clay Collard, Mansour Banari in that tournament, but we saw against Usman Nurmagomedov, the top talent in the world is just a little too quick for him. He can't get the fight to the ground against some of these elite grapplers. And again, ran into the same problem this weekend with Gadzi Rabadanov. Gadzi was actually putting him on his back. Brent was looking for stuff out of full guard, but Gadzi smartly throughout this fight elected to stay on the feet, eventually got the knockout victory. How impressed were you with Gadzi Rabadanov? He was giving up 3 inches in this contest and was significantly smaller on fight night than Brent Primus.
I'm not as high on Gadzi as the other ones at all. And the reason for that is because it was Brent Primus. Now, Brent, he's a psychopath, all right? Like, I've covered him 3 times in Bellator. And every single time at the official weigh-in, after he makes weight, right? And San Diego at 300, like the freak out. Yeah, I mean, you were there, you saw that. So it was, I knew it was coming at some point. We just didn't know when he was going to, kind of slow down and Father Time was going to come in. And it showed super slow. I mean, he was in slow motion. Like you could tell what he was going to throw before he threw it. Almost like you knew it before he did. So, and Gadzi clearly saw it coming and he just took advantage. So, I think and I hate doing this because Gadzi won. He got the million, he got the championship. Great. Congratulations. You deserve it. You beat everybody else in the tournament. Awesome. I think it was more Brent losing than Gadzi winning. Because I think if you get somebody in their prime, I don't think it's that easy for Gadzi. I think Gadzi gets beat. I couldn't give you a name.
He's a smaller lightweight, man. 5'8".
Exactly.
He's 5'8". And we see guys like Jalen Turner walk around at 155 pounds at 6'3". So yeah, I agree with you there. I think that somebody else would have given Gadzi more of a run for his money. Actually, he had a harder fight in the Ryzen versus Bellator co-promotion last year than he did this weekend. But, for Brent, yeah, I thought that he wasn't able to really get out of the way of some punches. I don't think he saw him coming. I thought the reaction time had slowed down. And then also his own speed and ability to make split-second decisions to kind of be on the aggressive against Gadzi. But it was a great performance from Gadzi Rabadanov, and he becomes PFL lightweight world champion. Mouthful of a name there for Gadzi. Rounding out this PFL card, we had the heavyweight championship. Denis Goltsov defeated Oleg Popov. Popov was on the longest active winning streak in mixed martial arts at the time coming into this fight. But Denis Goltsov gets taken down in the first round and then pulls off a triangle choke from his back. Something out of the playbook of a Fabricio Verdum or Frank Mir. We don't normally see this at heavyweight, especially from guys as big as Denis Goltsov. I predicted Goltsov to win this contest. I thought that he had a physical size advantage, being 6'5" to the 6'1" Oleg. I knew that Oleg was good on the ground and has a tremendous jab, but Denis Goltsov is a combat sambo champion and also was going to come in with about a 7-inch reach advantage. So I really liked Goltsov in this one, even though the sports books didn't. And it ended up going his way. How impressed were you with his submission victory, given the fact we don't really see triangles from the heavyweight division?
Ever. When was the last time? Frank Mir? Fabricio?
Probably.
Fabricio Verdum?
Yeah.
Like, who was the last one we saw heavyweight? No, it was impressive. It was definitely impressive. Now, again, I want to shit on the whole promotion, but I'm not impressed with the PFL heavyweight division. It's Francis, maybe Renan Ferreira, and that's it. Ryan Bader on the Bellator side, maybe, right? If he's even still fighting. So it was cool to see like a new name get in there, get a finish, get his $1 million check and his title and everything. What I want to see from Goltsov is him build here. Like he needs to build. He needs to, combat sambo is great. It's a great base for a lot of these guys. Work on your hands. You have a long ass reach. Work on your hands. Get that going. And so honestly, this is one of those fights where when I'm watching it, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I almost didn't care. But I was impressed with the fact that he got it with a triangle because I didn't think it was. I was like, there's no way that thing's tight. Like, no way that thing's tight. And then when he finished it, I was like, oh, never mind, he got that.
Yeah, put him to sleep. So that was really impressive from Goltsov. But the bigger story in this contest, really, you mentioned the name Francis Ngannou. This could be the next contender for Francis. It's slim pickings, as you mentioned, in the PFL division for heavyweights right now. Goltsov's last loss was to Renan Ferreira. He got knocked out in the World Championships last year. He had talked in his interview. He had been through the PFL ringer of the playoffs multiple times. I believe he said this was his fifth playoff, not appearance, but fifth time going through these PFL tournaments. Yeah. Now, for him to finally get this victory is big. I don't think he can compete at that level with Francis Ngannou. I think Ngannou probably finished him in the first round. But with that combat sambo background, it does kind of make things interesting stylistically. But it seems like, the path to victory for him is going to be to take the fight to the ground. And if he can't, it's going to be a devastating knockout for Ngannou. Is that something that interests you at all, seeing it? And can they even sell a pay-per-view with this guy against Ngannou?
Not interested in the least, dude. Okay, here's the thing. Combat sambo, great. You can get the fight to the ground. Awesome. Here's the problem. You meet Francis Ngannou a few years too late. Okay? Francis learned how to wrestle a little bit. He's got a little bit of wrestling. We've seen it a couple times. Who did he fight with the busted knee? Derek Lewis? Not Derek Lewis. He fought
Ciryl Gane.
Ciryl Gane. He fought Ciryl Gane with a blown knee or torn, whatever, injured knee. All right. And he wrestled him till he won. That was that. He didn't throw he threw hands, but he didn't throw any crazy hands. It wasn't a crazy savage knockout. He just wrestled him. So that's one reason why I'm not interested at all. The second is, man, you got a $2 million, well, not $2 million. The opponent gets $2 million. You got a multi-million-dollar like thoroughbred like Francis Ngannou. You better give him someone that can fight him. Like, he ain't gonna do it. Like, as good as Goltsov is, it's Francis Ngannou, and then everybody. Hold on. No, hold on. There's nothing on the screen. Everyone else is way down here. Nobody's close. Why do you think they were trying so hard to push for a John Jones fight? Ain't gonna happen, by the way. Let it go. But But that's why they're doing it, because there's nobody in the roster at PFL that's gonna give Francis Ngannou even an intriguing fight. Intriguing is the bottom of the barrel. It's like, I wonder what he would do. No, we know what would happen. Right hand to the face, game over. That's what would happen. So I think Goldside, just keep doing the tournament, bro. Keep stacking up your checks and getting the belts and all that. Don't worry about. Leave Francis alone, dog. Leave him alone. You do not want to end your career before it started. Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, for Goltsov, after winning the $1 million, if he can get another 2 against Francis, it would probably be the highest payday of his career. And if he lost, he would probably hang it up. But, I don't know really where the PFL goes from there. Because if you're going to have a guy who's saying, all right, if I lose to Francis, I'm going to retire, or there's not really much for me after that, that's not really a great marketing tool for a heavyweight title fight either. So, Francis is going to need opponents. I don't think they're going to go and sign somebody out of free agency. If they did that and wanted to get wild, I wouldn't mind seeing him fight kickboxing world champion Rico Verhoeven. I think that would be a good contest. It would maybe make Francis take the fight to the ground. That's really the only one that would interest me outside of the promotion that I think that they could potentially sign.
The one that doesn't make sense because he's so much shorter. He's only 6 foot. If they were PFL was able to poach Anatoly Malikin from the one championship,
that would be good.
It'd be interesting because the personality that Anatoly has, he thinks he's the shit, right? Even when he loses, I'm the shit. I don't care. But he's 6 foot. That's the problem. But if I'm them, I'm like, I try to pull a fast one and try that one because they're not going to poach any heavyweights in the UFC unless the UFC lets somebody go, right? Let's say the UFC somehow, for some ridiculous reason, because they're not going to do this because he's a massive fan favorite. But if Derek Lewis, for some reason, got dropped from the UFC, if I'm the PFL, I'm like, hey, Derek, you want the rematch? Oh, yeah, you gonna pay me? How much you going to pay me? $2 million? Yeah, I'll do that. And you can sell that as, okay, we're going to try this again. Let's see how it goes. Now, a lot of fans are going to be like, and again, the UFC is not going to give him anything. And there's nobody out there right now other than Verhoeven, which honestly, I prefer that over any other matchup he could possibly get. That's actually, viable. Not John Jones. That ain't going to happen, Donnie. Let it go. But, it's the Verhoeven fight would be dope as hell. Like, I would be so excited to see that.
Yeah, and have his I think he's had 1 or 2 MMA fights, but to really have his major performance go against Francis Ngannou, that would be something that casual fight fans, kickboxing fans, European fans, everybody would get behind. It would sell a lot of tickets, especially if you put the fight in Europe. But yeah, that's really where the state of the PFL heavyweight division is. It's a sorry state of affairs as of right now. They got one man at the top, and it's Francis Ngannou. But congratulations to Dennis Goltsov on winning the heavyweight world title and becoming $1 million richer. Now, fight fans, we've got a lot to talk about this weekend. UFC 310 pay-per-view. Alexandre Pantoja takes on Japanese superstar Kai Asakura, former Rizin bantamweight champion. This guy is aggressive. He's explosive. He's got knockout power. He's fought Manel Kape and Kyoji Horiguchi in the past. Just defeated former Bellator champion Juan Archuleta by finish. But there's a couple things in this matchup, Eddie, I'm going to get into here that give me a little bit of cause for concern with Asakura in his debut. I typically take him in this fight. I think that he has knockout power that maybe could get Pantoja out of there. But there's a couple things. One is he was fighting in a ring in Japan. This will be, his first fight in a cage. He didn't go 5 rounds in Japan. They historically have 2-round fights with a 10-minute opening round and then a 5-minute second round. And another one is the weight drop from 135 pounds now down to 125 pounds. What's his body going to look like? We saw Cody Garbrandt try and do the same thing and was stopped by Kai Kara France. We all know the story there. But will Kai Asakura be able to, 1, make weight, 2, adjust to the cage, and then adjust to the new rule sets and the time limit? He's not going to be able to kick to the head of a downed opponent. A lot of his knockouts, of his 13 knockouts, came by stomp or head kick. He's going to have to worry about elbows for the first time in his career. There's just a lot of new factors for Kai Asakura this weekend that kind of make me lean towards the side of Pantoja. Now, historically, when I'm looking at this, Japan has never had a UFC champion. They had Kazushi Sakuraba win the UFC Japan tournament, defeating Conan Silveira in the early 2000s or late 1990s. I can't remember exactly when that took place. But since then, they've had Yushin Okami, Takanori Gomi, Kid Yamamoto. Never really had someone really rise to the top and capture that UFC championship. At one time, Japan ruled the MMA scene with the Pride Fighting Championships. But since then, it's far and few in between when it comes to Japanese fighters at the top tier elite promotion in the sport. What do you make of Kai Asakura's chances? He's got a nation behind him. And do any of those new factors weigh into your decision for where you're going with the prediction?
So it's difficult, right, to figure out because not a lot of people know much about Kai Asakura. I mean, everyone that watches Rizin like us, like the hardcores, we know what he's capable of. But all those factors you mentioned, dude, the weight cut, he's not super tall. So, I mean, I think he'll be all right. It's just how much is that going to beat him up now? One thing I always talk about weight cuts, and people always like, oh, man, he looks like if someone in the main event looks like complete crap on the scale, they barely make it, they need the curtain, whatever. Everyone's like, oh, man, I'm going to put money on the other guys. It'd be easy. You got to remember, these guys weigh in at 9 a.m. They got 2-hour window to weigh in, 9 a.m., right? And then they don't fight till the next day at, 10 p.m.? By the time they get to that point, they're okay. For the most part, they're well hydrated. They're fed. They're usually recovered for the most part. So that's one thing. That's one thing I'll go on that as far as the weight cut goes. But again, it's 10 pounds less than he usually does. So what's going to happen with that? The other thing is the level of opponent is not the same. Like he didn't fight a Brandon Moreno. You know what I mean? He didn't have to fight the Kai Kara Francis, the Steve Ursegs,
Brandon Royval.
The Brandon Royvals of the world. Those guys are all dogs. Like they're not punks. Like everyone wants to make fun of the lighter weights. No, those guys are dogs. They give anybody a fight, right? And so, I think this is the UFC. This is Dana. This is Hunter and Shelby and Mick and all them going. Hey, this guy's a big name in Japan. We're gonna get a huge following from Japan on this. Like, first of all, the matchmakers, they do their homework. They know what they're talking about, okay? If they tell Dana and Hunter, hey, this is the guy, they mean this is the guy. He can make it happen. So could he win? Absolutely. But the ground game, the pressure, can he deal with, Pantoja's ability to smother strikes? He smothered a lot of the strikes against the guys that he fights. Must smother him, meaning he closes that distance. He makes you, from instead of extending your punch to pop at the end, he makes you do this almost because he'll put it on you. He was willing to take a shot to the face to get in on the clinch and take you down.
Yeah, closes distance really well.
Very fast, too. Quickly and smart, too. If you look at next time you watch a bit tape of him, watch his footwork. The way he does it, it's beautiful. But again, it's this jump to the UFC. Now, I don't think Asakura is gonna be one of those guys that's like, oh no, the bright lights of the UFC. Oh crap, this is crazy, right? Because he's been in the
in front of 60,000.
Exactly. Now, I like Japan. I love Japan audiences, honestly, because they're quiet until something happens. They're smart. They know what they're watching. If someone gets a takedown, they're like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
In America, someone gets a takedown, boo, stand them up, boo, dumbasses. But so he's got a real legitimate chance. But I just think this is going to be just a bit too much for him. I honestly think Pantoja finishes him. I would say Pantoja by submission, second round. Honestly.
Yeah, I think. I think Kai Asakura comes in here and really tries to blow Pantoja's door off. Like I said, with the weight cut here, I don't know what his cardio is going to be like over 5 rounds, fighting at the smallest weight class he's fought at in a number amount of years. I think that he's probably going to go in there and think, I got 10 good minutes here. Let me see if I can get this guy out of here. It's him or me, kill or be killed. I'm going to knock him out or he's going to submit me. I think that's really the mindset that Kai Asakura is going to come into this one with. He's got nothing to lose. He's playing with house money. He goes and gets finished by Pantoja. He goes back to Rizin in Japan as a legend and can compete for their world titles. No harm, no foul. He goes in there and finishes him. He goes to a level of superstardom that only Kazushi Sakuraba has ever experienced in their nation. So, this is really all chips on the table for Kai Asakura. And one thing I'd like to mention, though, is him coming over and getting a title shot in his first appearance. Now, when we saw Yuri Prohaska, the light heavyweight champion from Rizin, come over, he defeated Volkan Oezdemir and after one fight got a UFC title opportunity. Kai Asakura here doesn't even have to fight. What do you think about the UFC? To me, it shows that they prioritize getting these proven prospects from Rizin, and they really have a high what do I want to say here? They have a high, opinion of what these guys can do overseas, bringing them in, and they really like the talent from that promotion.
So, like I said before, the matchmakers do their homework, right? So, and Dana Hunter clearly trusts those guys. They've been around forever. So that I think gives him, comfort to give him the title shot. But I also think it's. I know Dana recently said, like, I don't know about going to Japan. It's hard doing business there. And he's not wrong. Okay, it's very difficult to do fight business in Japan. If you're not risen, or if you don't have an in with whoever. But this would be the way to do it. If you have a Japanese champion. Now, first of all, let's the elephant in the room for the most part. Okay, the UFC is notorious for dropping the ball. You had 3 Mexican champions. You didn't go to Mexico. You had Noche UFC and presented by Riyadh Season. The fuck are we talking
Wei
about?
Zhang and Yan Xiaonan. Everyone was calling for that to be in China.
Why wasn't it, right? So what I love for Kai Asakura to be the champion and be the first UFC champion for Japan, I think that would force the UFC to go to Japan, being the first one. Like, you cannot not go to Japan at that point. Yeah. But this is just the marketing here and there. See what happens. See what the numbers look like in Japan. Could we sell out? Could we do this and that? It's like you said. Kai's Asakura's playing with house money, but so is the UFC. Like, what? If Kai Asakura wins, massive upset. Everyone blows up. You and I talk about it for weeks on end and everything. And Pantoja wins. Yeah, okay, we figured.
Keep it
next
moving.
Fight. Yeah, next fight. Now the thing that I'm like, what's going on here is they didn't give, like, I know Brandon just fought for the title and he lost. Everyone's kind of tired of the Brandon Moreno rematches. I'm not, because I like Brandon, but at the same time, like, for the most part, fans are kind of tired of seeing Brandon in there for a title shot all the time. They kind of skip over Kai Kara-France a little bit. They kind of skipped over. I know he just fought Brandon, but Amir Albazi a little bit. Steve Erceg just fought. No Cap's not gonna get a title shot anytime soon.
Shit, they just released Muhammad Makayev, who was their upstart prospect. So
Makayev did it to himself, unfortunately. It's the behind the scenes stuff is irritating. Anyway, but so I get why UFC did that. But dude, Kai has a massive opportunity here to put Japan on the map and to force the UFC to go to Japan. And I think if he wins, I think it's going to happen. Do I think he's going to win? No. I think he's going to put up a valiant effort and then maybe not get dropped, but get taken down and submitted. But again, I love being proven wrong when it comes to this stuff. Like, that's why I love him. One of the reasons I love MMA.
And one of the things with Pantoja is that he's not ever in boring fights.
Ever.
Even the fight with Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, those were wars. Those were really good fights. And, I think this is going to be a highly competitive fight as well. And with the UFC knows they're putting a flyweight title as the main event. They know this is going to be an all-action war.
It's gonna be good.
Striker versus grappler, really, when you want to get to the bare bones of it. But Pantoja is also as tough as they come on the feet and has a durable chin, which we saw against Brandon Moreno. So that is our main event for the Flyweight World Championship at 125 pounds. Kai Asakura, in his debut, takes on Alexandre Pantoja in Pantoja's title defense. Now, moving on, we have a battle of undefeated phenoms in the welterweight division with interim championship gold on the line. Undefeated Shavkat Rakhmonov, 18-0, 18 finishes, takes on Ian Garry, the Irish up-and-coming kickboxer who just got a victory over Michael Venom Page. Now, Shavkat Rakhmonov is really the dark horse of this division, the boogeyman. Nobody wants to fight this guy. He beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, beat Jeff Neal, beat Neil Magny, and has looked impressive in doing so. He can do it with the hands. He can choke you out. He can take you to the ground. He's one of the most well-rounded mixed martial artists I've ever seen at the 170-pound division. I think he gets this one done over Garry. I think he probably gets him to the ground and submits him here in the third round is what I'm going to predict in this one. But Garry is 2 inches taller. He is a good striker. These guys have sparred in the past. We don't really know how that went on the inside, but these guys are going to be familiar with each other to some extent coming in. I think that these are two of the most talented guys the UFC has, period, regardless of weight class. Now, some fans didn't like that Ian had to take the fight to the ground against Michael Venom Page. They wanted to see him stand and trade, but it showed me his intelligence in that matchup. Why fight the guy at his strength? Make him fight where he's weak at, and maybe you're not great there, but you're better than he is. I don't know where his path to victory is here against Shavkat Rakhmonov unless he knocks him out unconscious. And so far from what we've seen, Shavkat's got an unbreakable chin and a will and pressure that he puts on people that makes him, wilt late in fights like we saw against Jeff Neal. What do you think about this matchup? And in this battle of unbeatens, who are you favoring?
Well, first of all, it's not for the interim title because I remember asking that.
It's not.
It's not.
I thought on ESPN I saw it was. Oh wow.
They might have jumped the gun. I think because I think last time they look it up while I go on this, but because I looked it up too, but I couldn't find anything. But Dana asked Dana about why didn't you do an interim title for Rakhmonov Garry? And he said because we know when Bilal's coming back, like he's coming back, and Bilal actually posted today or yesterday that he's back to training, so that kind of worked out. But this fight is to me the most intriguing fight on the entire card. Right? You have two of the like you said undefeated welterweights, two of the best welterweights on the planet. Okay, and two vastly different personalities, and I mean incredibly different personalities. You have a talker and a guy that doesn't talk. You have, you have Ian Garry who's entertaining on the mic. He's entertaining in appearances and stuff like that. I mean, even to the point where he becomes the butt of all the jokes with all the comments about his wife and everything online. But Rakhmonov has that aura, that mystique, and he's got Laura Sanko in his corner, which never hurts. Laura Sanko, the best.
Yeah, I apologize about that. I was looking on Tapology during my lunch break at work. Mm-hmm. They had it labeled as a title fight, and then it took it off here I looked again. But yeah, regardless of that, we all know that the winner of this fight's facing Bilal Muhammad when he wins. It's not up for really debate, and I think that Dana would admit that himself. The winner of this is going to take on Bilal Muhammad. I would have liked to have seen this with the interim title on the line. I think it would have drawn in more fans. You could promote a 2-title fight pay-per-view as well. But, kind of a title fight without there being a title on the line, considering we both know what's next for these guys. Like you were saying with Rakhmonov, he's, a tremendous talent. I got to take him in this one. Gary's good, but, I think he's a great athlete, and that athleticism has propelled him against some fighters that, are a little shorter than he is, not as fast as he is. And I think that Shavkat Rakhmonov gets it done this weekend. Do you think you got Shavkat in this one?
I got Shavkat in this one, but for me, the story is it has so many different things. Right? For example, Garry takes this fight. Okay, he's a smart man. He knows that a loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov is nothing to hang your head about. Like that's Shavkat Rakhmonov. He's like more than likely. I think he beats Bilal Muhammad. That's just me. But you probably lose to the next UFC champion. You took this fight on short notice to help the UFC out. Like everything's again house money for Garry. Now, what's probably going to happen? They're going to trade strikes a little bit here and there, and then Shavkat's going to take him down and mess him up on the ground. Great game. We're done. Ian Garry has the chance, that massive opportunity here, playing with house money, to take his whole shot and his title shot, dude. Can you imagine Ian Garry gets in the first round? He just watches all the tape he can on Shavkat and just catches it with something, knocks him out. That will be the biggest upset on the night for sure, I think. But maybe of the year, right? Yeah. And then you get Ian Garry versus Bilal Muhammad. Imagine that. People that love press conferences, and wait for that press conference. Wait for all that shit talk leading up to the fight. I mean, that's just going to be entertaining left and right. You know, even if you think Bilal and Ian are cringy, which they can be, but it'll still be entertaining. So, but no. Shavkat ragdolls and gets his title shot against Bilal.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Ian Garry certainly is a great personality, like you're saying, can sell fights. It's going to be hard to sell this one against Shavkat, who barely talks, but Shavkat's fighting style kind of speaks for itself. So fight fans will tune in to see him perform. And hopefully, obviously, I think the winner of this fight gets an opportunity at Bilal Muhammad next for the undisputed welterweight title. Now, moving on here, we have a rematch between Ciryl Gane and Alexander Volkov, a battle of top 10 heavyweights. Former title challenger Ciryl Gane faces former Bellator champion Alexander Volkov. Ciryl Gane's last 3 victories come over Sergey Spivak, Tai Tuivasa, and Derek Lewis, while Volkov's last 3 wins come over Sergey Pavlovich, Tai Tuivasa, and Alexander Romanov. When we just saw Volkov, he looked tremendous against Pavlovich, was able to really put volume on the charging, aggressive fighter. Pavlovich was able to get everybody out of there in the first round, but Volkov made him go the full distance and peppered him throughout the fight. Those guys were former friends and sparring partner. Kind of sad seeing them, embrace and their relationship go south. But Alexander Volkov is propelled into a matchup here against Ciryl Gane, and one where he's going to try and get back a loss from earlier in his career. I don't really know what to make of Ciryl Gane. I don't think that the winner of this fight's Tom Aspinall. At least I hope they don't. I thought Ciryl Gane should have fought Tom Aspinall when Aspinall was calling for it a year and a half ago. Ciryl has kind of really sat on the sidelines and watched this heavyweight division unfold. For better or for worse, we're going to find out on Saturday night. But Alexander Volkov, 6'7" in this one to the 6'4" Ciryl Gane, identical reach. Both of them are strikers. I'm going to have to favor Gane. I think speed and athleticism are on his side. Although Volkov is a tremendously experienced fighter, has been there, done that, and fought everyone in this division. But, I just think Ciryl Gane is going to be a little bit too athletic, a little bit too quick for Alexander Volkov.
And Volkov's taller than anybody, pretty much, right? 6'7", 6'7", and all that. And he's able to use that jab against Sergey every time he charges forward, like you said. Sergey would run in and be like, pop, pop, pop. So much so that Sergey was pissed after the fight. Like, he didn't want to shake hands or nothing. So, but he gets, in my opinion, he's going to get a completely different approach from Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane's patient. Ciryl Gane will wait. He'll lull you. He'll you to sleep. He'll bore the shit out of you till you get frustrated and go. Can Alexander Volkov, fight the urge to force the action, which I think he would, right? But that just plays into Ciryl Gane's game. The thing that I like about Volkov is that we've seen him evolve through the years, right? And he's in 48 fights, whatever he's been done.
48. This will be his 49.
Plus whatever amateur fights he had. He's super experienced. Does he have the ability to win this fight? Absolutely. Will he? I'm rooting for him. I'm not gonna lie. I want to see Volkov fight for a title at least one time. If Ciryl Gane's gonna get it after one win or two, whatever it was, Alexander Volkov deserves a shot. So I would like to see Volkov win. I think it's just tough goings here. Like you said, Ciryl Gane not only has the patience game, but he's also quicker, faster. He's got the ground game too. Was the ground game? Yeah, the ground game to work with it, right? No, not the ground game. Jesus, I'm thinking about somebody else. My bad.
He has pulled off submissions in the past.
Yeah, but like the tap against Jones, I was like, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I seemed like you panicked. But
one
anyway.
of the things I was going to ask you here, and you kind of briefly mentioned it, we've got 2 counter strikers.
Yeah.
Are we going to see a boring fight here? Are we going to see each other kind of get reads off one another, counter strike the counter striker, and have a lulling affair on the feet for fight fans? Do you think this one will be boring?
I think it will, which is weird because at heavyweight, with the lack of heavyweights that are worth a damn, no offense, but the lack of heavyweights that are worth the marketing and pushing and getting, and trying to get matched up with a Tom or a Jones or whoever, you would think like, if I lose at heavyweight, clearly it's not a big deal, right? Anybody can get a title shot at this point.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go in balls out and see what happens. Make it entertaining. Literally put my stamp on this fight and try to force the UFC to give me the Tom Aspinall fight. Because let's be honest, you know, that's probably what's going to happen here. But yeah, dude, it's going to be boring, dude. I don't think I have zero faith that it's going to be entertaining, but
Jake Noaker says in the chat, Volkov's recent activity is going to win him the fight. You know, I mean, it very well could. That's one of the things that's on his side in this one. And as we've mentioned, Ciryl Gane kind of sat and watched this heavyweight division unfold after the loss to John Jones. We thought that he should have been back in there against Tom Aspinall. Alexander Volkov, as Jake mentioned, has been really active. That is kind of one of the things that are siding with Volkov in this one. Does that stick out to you, Eddie?
Absolutely. And shout out Jake Noka, one of my favorite people out in this space and one of the best to do it. Congratulations on your move over to HOF. You know, that's dope for you, man. But look at the last few guys he's fought. Sergey Pavlovich, not a dog, right? He could have easily been the interim champion. Taito Ivasa throws like a truck. Alexander Romanov, I'll give you that one. Yeah, Jairzinho Rosenstruik, tough out. He finished out.
But stylistically, Romanov is, on paper, people thought maybe he'd give him trouble being a grappler, but Romanov's physical conditioning isn't up to par with some of the elite heavyweights.
Right, and so that's the fight everyone's going to look at. Well, he can handle a ground guy, he can handle the ground game, all that, but he's not Ciryl Gane. Romanov is not Ciryl Gane, clearly. So, but I agree with Jake. As far as much as I think, I'm sure the money's going to go towards Gane, or the numbers, the odds, or whatever. I like Alexander Volkov to use that experience that Jake's talking about, the recent activity, and the different level of opponent that he's had, and he's going to use all that to win a pretty damn boring fight, but he's going to get the win.
Yeah, I'm going to side with Ciryl Gane in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the recent activity is going to make this a closer fight than it was the first time, but I just think it's too much athleticism, too much speed on the side of Ciryl Gane in this one. I think it's going to be, like Eddie was saying, kind of a kickboxing affair between two counter strikers here. Maybe not the most entertaining fight. Maybe it'll be a great fight. Hopefully it will. It is a heavyweight contest, and these guys both have power nonetheless.
It's hard to beat Derek Lewis. Okay, it's hard to beat Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou in the boring category. Okay, if these guys do it, we're going out in a sad state of affairs in 2024. Yeah,
exactly. Some of the fights you think are going to be great, don't end up being duds, and then some of them you think aren't going to be that great, end up being really great ones. But
100%.
This one we've got coming up is also a very interesting stylistic matchup. Now, we talked about two strikers in the last contest. This one, we've got two world-class grapplers. Kron Gracie returns to face Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell has not fought since the devastating knockout loss to Josh Emmett last year. Took time off for a good reason. I really like that with his decision-making. Kron Gracie, on a two-fight losing streak, gets a ranked opponent on a pay-per-view. Really kind of want your opinion on that, Eddie. Have we seen that in the past? A guy, I know it's the family name. They want a Gracie to succeed so bad so they can, sell the name and get it out there and it can be highly marketable. But at the same time, he loses to Charles Jourdain and doesn't look great whatsoever. Doesn't even really look competitive. And Charles Jourdain isn't a guy knocking on the door of a title shot in this division. So, I don't know really how Kron Gracie got into this contest, but Bryce Mitchell, maybe gets an easier path back and is put back into the door here in the UFC cage. One thing that I think Mitchell is really going to have to pay attention to are the grappling exchanges. He's going to want to take this fight to the ground at some point. He can't get caught lackadaisical or, with his mind somewhere else trying to pass positions and have Kron snatch him up into some type of submission. I don't know if he's going to be better than Kron Gracie on the feet, than Kron Gracie on the ground. Do you think that Bryce Mitchell should try and keep this fight standing?
No. I want to see this on the ground. No, hell no. I want to see this fight hit the ground. I want to be like, hey, man, I got mine. You got your, grab your nuts, fucking go. Like, I would not. I'm not gonna lie, dude. And this is a dumb thought. So ignore me on this for the most part, folks. But I would love to go up and jiu-jitsu tournaments. You go up, you're like, hey, fist bump, let's go. And then they both just pull guard and just go on the ground. The crowd will boo. Everyone will freak out. Boo, this is BS. Whatever, stand them up, whatever. I don't care. I'll be at home like, let's go, like freaking out. I don't want to stay standing because Kron Gracie don't got hands for shit. Go on.
He really doesn't.
Yeah. My 3-year-old could punch him. It's just 4-year-old could punch him. Like, honestly, and I'm not even trying to be funny. Like, it legitimately, like, his hands are shit. And
I feel like he's a fighter from the 1990s or early 2000s, a one-dimensional mixed martial artist.
He's in the mold of his father.
Yeah.
Right? In the mold of his dad, who's arguably, if you believe all the stories and everything, might be the greatest fighter of all time if more people knew who he was, right? So it's his dad was huge in pancreas and all that. So
he was the first
sorry,
fighter to headline Pride 1 and 2.
Not pancreas, Bellator. So but and Pride and all that. So he's in his mold of his father. His dad had, but the difference is had way better hands than Crone does. I could give a shit about this being on the feet at all. I do not want this on the feet.
If this is on the feet, it's going to be one of the worst fights we might have ever seen.
It's going to be hilarious.
Maybe it might have been Askren level of striking, but
it's going to be funny as hell if they stay on the feet, dude. Okay, and honestly, I'll give you my thing. I think Bryce Mitchell wins it. Right, decision. I think it'll be tough. I think they're just so good on the ground. It's going to be reversal sweeps. You go, one guy goes Kimura, rolls over to get through to kill the angle, takes the back instead. It's going to be fun if he stays on the ground. If he stays on the feet, I think we're going to sit here and just laugh a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. Bryce Mitchell and Eddie Bravo, black belt. Crone Gracie comes from, the top lineage, in the history of jiu-jitsu, in the greatest family in mixed martial arts. But the Gracies really haven't had a contender in numerous years and generations. So, the UFC is kind of looking for that. That's why I believe Crone gets put into this contest. But as you were saying, if you think Bryce Mitchell takes this fight to the ground, I think Crone has a legitimate chance at victory. I think that he can win in a scramble and catch Bryce, who has been inactive. Jake just talked about the inactivity of Ciryl Gane. But the last time we saw Bryce Mitchell, we were worried for his health. And I don't know what type of Bryce Mitchell we're going to get in this contest. He's not going to face a powerful puncher, which is maybe the reason why the UFC put him against Crone Gracie. But maybe we'll see some entertaining jiu-jitsu on the ground, but he's going to have to mind his P's and Q's and not get caught by the Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt himself in Crone Gracie. So moving on down the card here.
Sorry, real quick, I'm Bryce Mitchell. You're good. I'm Bryce Mitchell real quick. The last thing the UFC wants with Bryce Mitchell is him to get knocked the hell out again. 100% why it's Crone Gracie and not anybody with hands, okay? They want to see what Bryce Mitchell looks like. Look, let's see what Bryce Mitchell's done since he got knocked the hell out by Emmett, okay? He goes online and tweets the wildest stuff. He was already saying wild stuff before. He pushed it harder. It made a lot of people joking. They were like, oh, he's got CTE and everything. But anyone that was watching it that remembers the knockout, like I did, I saw those tweets and I was like, ooh, okay, like is something going on with this dude? Maybe he needs some, we got to check him out. I think the UFC did this to make it, so he doesn't get knocked the fuck out. But they want to see what they have with Bryce. They want to see what Bryce, like if Bryce took any unfortunate permanent damage in this fight. What does he look like now? What has he been doing? If he comes in and he's the same Bryce Mitchell that we always knew with the custom shorts and running into with the Bible and all that, great. We love that. Do that, right? And then put him up against a legitimate ranked opponent. This right here is, I think the UFC hoping that there's like a really entertaining ground game with a Gracie and with Bryce Mitchell being the I don't want to say nutcase, man, but the interesting fellow that he is.
Yeah. And, this is going to be an entertaining fight if it does hit the ground. So maybe we get to see a good jiu-jitsu, contest here. But we have Nate Landwehr taking on Dooho Choi in what is my opinion going to be the fight of the night. Nate Landwehr has never been in an unentertaining fight. Against Dan Ige, he gets dropped, fights back in that contest to make it competitive. Dooho Choi is already in the UFC Hall of Fame for his fight with Cub Swanson, which won Fight of the Year at one point. Landwehr should have a grappling advantage in this one. Dooho Choi looked good in his last fight. He looked crisp with his hands. He looked fast. He looked kind of renewed. But I like Nate Landwehr in this one. I think he's going to be too tough. The grappling is going to be too much. I think he's going to win this one by decision. But don't be surprised if Landwehr takes some punishment like he did against David Onama or Dan Ige.
The Korean Superboy, man. That guy's fun as hell to watch. So somewhat off the subject, but bear with me. Early this morning, South Korea, the president of South Korea, declared martial law. Okay, and and it was a whole mess. It took hours, but Parliament struck it down, and he was forced to remove it. So they're back to whatever they were doing. But for a few hours this morning, everybody was trying to find out where Dooho Choi was. It's like, please tell me he's in the States. Luckily, folks, he's in the States. He didn't have to deal with any of that stuff, and we're good. Okay. Outside of that, Dude, this is a crazy fight. It's a dog fight. This is a great
It
fight
really
to get to
is.
open. Dude, it's a great fight to open the main card with. Honestly, I would move Mitchell and Gracie down for Aljo and Evloev, but that's different conversation. But it's a great fight to start the pay-per-view with. Okay, you got two heavy hitters, two guys that do not care. Like when I mean they don't care, I've seen both guys take shots to land one. Okay. We've seen Nate take a bunch of, maybe not, Elkin style, but take.
I was going to say he's the new Darren Elkins. He fights exactly like him. He's just a little bit physically stronger.
Just less shitty tattoos and honestly a little more skilled in my opinion. And so he's that kind of. We love that kind of guy. We love the Elkins, the Nates, even the Bryce Mitchells when he was when he gets put through wars and all that. But Doo Ho Choi is a calculated killer in my opinion. And as much as I love Nate, because I do. I've gotten to talk to him a couple of times. A great guy. I think he's gonna run into a nasty shot here and get knocked out. And I know it's like reaching a lot. A lot of people get like, "Oh, how do you know all that? It's my decision, whatever." And it probably will be. But I like Doo Ho Choi in this one, man. I think he's gonna show up and take the mantle up for South Korea.
Yeah, I think that's the path to victory for Doo Ho Choi. I don't think that he is going to stop the takedowns of Landwehr and just pick him apart on the feet to some decision victory. I think he's either going to get him out of there early as Landwehr comes in and kind of catch him as Landwehr's being over aggressive, or this one's going to be a decision win for Nate Landwehr. That's kind of how I see it. But I think this is going to be an all-action, entertaining fight throughout the contest. So fight fans will definitely want to tune in for the first fight of the main card between Nate Landwehr and Doo Ho Choi at 155 pounds. But as you mentioned, we go to the prelims here. We've got former UFC title challengers and former UFC champions fighting on the prelims this weekend. First fight we're going to get into is a matchup at 205 pounds between perennial contenders Dominic Reyes and Anthony Smith. Both of these guys have fought for UFC gold, both of them coming up short against John Jones. Anthony Smith has kind of been on a skid recently. He did pick up the win against Vitor Petrino by submission. Petrino kind of running into a guillotine in that one. But Dominic Reyes here, is he looking for another opportunity, another run towards championship gold? Or was the last victory for him a flash in the pan? We're going to find out this weekend. I like Dominic Reyes in this one. I think that he's got more left in his career than Anthony Smith does in his. If you just look at the fighter records here, 58 fights total for Anthony Smith. This will be his 59th. I think that Dominic Reyes is kind of embarrassed by the losses that he suffered to Jan Blachowicz and Ryan Spann. He wants to get those back and show people that he was once a great fighter and can maybe still become that great fighter and live up to his potential. But he's going to have to get past Anthony Smith, who I think is on the doorstep of retirement. If he loses this weekend, I think Smith hangs it up, which is why I'm siding with Dominic Reyes. I'm going to go with him by third round knockout. I think that Smith hangs tough for the first 2 rounds, but Reyes eventually overcomes him late with volume.
When's the last time we saw Anthony Smith knock somebody out?
We got Ryan Spann, I think. Ryan Spann probably.
No, he tapped Ryan Spann.
Did he?
Yeah, let's see. I'm looking right now. Shogun. Shogun in 2018, which is already a Shogun 8 years past his prime.
Yeah.
Dominic Reyes don't have to worry about the hands. He don't. Just don't get taken down. Even if you can take it down, Dominic's showing the ability to get back to his feet. He can do it. He'll do it. But here's the thing. This is a matchup between a guy that should have beat John Jones against a guy that could have beat John Jones. One dude should have got the decision. I still think Reyes won that fight, but whatever. And Smith could have beat John Jones by DQ. It's the weirdest type of fight because the storylines are hilarious, right? But you're right. Anthony Smith is super incredibly, smart, experienced. Seen everybody fight John Jones. Dominic Reyes fought John Jones because he was on a tear, got knocked out, or not got beat, and then comes back thinking, okay, cool, I lost my decision, whatever. I can come back and get back to a quick title shot, and runs into 2 buzzsaws. So it's an unfortunate story for him. For there's more on the line here for Smith than Reyes, I think, because Reyes, I think we could both agree he's not ready for Alex Pereira. I mean, he's just not. But neither is Anthony Smith. I think the only reason Anthony Smith will get a shot at Pereira is because they don't have anybody else, maybe, right? And so, I don't see Anthony Smith retiring. I think he's a little crazy. I think he should personally, but that's just my opinion. I'll never tell a fighter to retire.
He's going to fight till the wheels fall off.
I just think he's the kind of guy. He's so smart when he's on the. I don't know if you watch him on the desk. People disagree with him. right?
He's a great analyst. I
He's
like
a
him.
great analyst. I don't want to see him get knocked the fuck out, right, and lose something, up here, and then he's got nothing. I want to see him.
That he doesn't think that he has to keep fighting to keep that analyst job or something like that. Maybe he feels indebted to the UFC that he has to keep going because he's on the desk, but he's good on the desk. He needs to realize that's probably where his future is. He does the podcast with Bisping. A lot of people watch that and think he does a great job. So I think he's one of the best minds in all of mixed martial arts.
100%. So he needs to. I think he loses. I'm with you. He needs to just go home, dog. Be an analyst, do your thing. And I think Reyes. I mean, he's just another big name, honest big name. If we're honest about it, another big name on his resume on his way back up to a title shot. Maybe even with Ox Pereira in the next year or two. But it's just. I don't care. I love both these guys. So I want to see both these guys. I want to see both these guys succeed. But I think Dominic Reyes might knock out.
Yeah, that's what I have too. Happy somebody's going to get a win here, but like you mentioned, I don't think Reyes is ready for the Alexander Rakic's or the top guys in this division. I think that he'd honestly struggle with some guys like Nikita Krylov, who are in the middle of the pack as well. But this is going to be an interesting fight between former title challengers in the last fight of the prelims. Now, a fight that I'm really interested in here, we've got undefeated Movsar Evloev facing Aljamain Sterling, the former bantamweight champion, fighting up at 145 pounds. Has looked tremendous, defeating rising contenders, on his way here to face Movsar Evloev. Now, one of the things with Evloev is that he had the victory over Diego Lopez, who everybody's really high on right now. Diego Lopez might leap him and get the title opportunity before him, even though Movsar has the victory. I think that has a lot to do with the activity of Lopez and his fan-friendly fighting style. But in this one, we're going to find out how good Movsar Evloev is facing his first former world champion.
I think Movsar is overrated. And I never say that. But I think he's overrated. I think Diego Lopez came in on short notice and put it on and scared the shit out of him quite a few times. You remember that fight? Diego came in and got him in trouble. And Movsar's face went from I got this guy to what's going on? I think those two fight again in full camps. I think Diego wins. But you're right. This is a massive fight for him fighting a former champion and to stake, but look, man, I'll be honest with you. He can't make it boring. You can't make it in the lighter weight, in the stacked divisions. Because let's be honest, 45's for the most part stacked. I know Max is left. Topuria is the champion. Volkanovski's still a dangerous guy. Aljo's there. Calvin Kattar is there. That's a stacked division. Yeah. Emmett, you cannot be boring, Movsar. You cannot bore me to a win and expect me to be you should get a title shot, because you won't. You shouldn't. Yeah. Okay. He needs to make this entertaining. And I'm not saying put yourself in danger. I'm saying put foot on the gas. Instead of taking him down and holding him, try to pass, get a different position, do something different. But Aljo's a different monster. I don't understand why people don't give Aljo his due. He was I get it. He won the title off of Jan of an illegal knee. That's Jan's fault. He's the idiot that threw it, not Aljo's fault. Aljo was legitimately hurt. Everyone thought he was making it up. You take a knee to the face and tell me he made it up. Get out of here with that, okay? I've taken knees to the face in fights before. It sucks, okay? But Aljo's a different animal. He's got the striking, he's got the ground game, okay? And he's not gonna just get lulled into a wrestling match. So it's gonna be. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be. I think Aljo's gonna make it more fun than Movsar is. Mm-hmm. And
even if it does hit the floor, I think Aljo might have an advantage. You mentioned, Diego Lopez almost finished Evloev with a triangle choke. Aljamain Sterling's back control is tremendous. This is a 3-round fight. He gets to the back of Evloev and does, the kind of the backpack thing he does where he gets the body triangle on you and kind of stays there and nullifies your game. He could win this fight easily on the ground, in my opinion. And if it stays on the feet, I might also favor Sterling. So, Evloev did look better on the feet than he has in recent contests last time out. But I like Sterling in this one by decision. Interesting to me, the FanDuel Sportsbook has this one plus 210 for Aljamain Sterling, minus 260 for Movsar Evloev. Huge favorite for Movsar Evloev.
I'm putting money on Aljo. I don't even gamble, dog. But
a former world champion, 2.6 to 1.
Come on. I get he won the title the way he did it, but come on. Aljo was a legitimate champion. Y'all tripping. All right. And he was a big 135er. The guy had really hard weight cuts. Now he doesn't have hard weight cuts. And come on. I hate
I think he's going to be bigger than Movsar on fight night.
He might. He should be. So I'm with you. And he's got first of all, no one talks about the intricacies of the body triangle. Aljo has one of the nastier body triangles in the game. He knows when you're about to try to go to the side to break the body triangle, he knows how to take you back to the other way, or he just easily, really fast, without you even noticing, switches to the other side, switches the triangle to the other side. And he's just like, what are we doing? So I think Aljo wins the decision. I don't think we'll get a finish on this one. I think we'll get a decision win over here by Aljo. And then he'll start beating his chest looking for a number one contender fight.
Yeah, and to your point, we saw that in the second Peter Yan fight.
Yeah.
Somebody who was able to get up off the ground against Merab multiple times really got controlled, like you were saying, on the back by Aljamain Sterling for large portions. So this one's going to be very interesting. Can Movsar Evloev stay undefeated against the former world champion Aljamain Sterling? It's going to be a good one. Now, finishing out our coverage of this UFC 310 pay-per-view, we've got a battle of two of the most athletic welterweights on the UFC roster. Rude Boy Randy Brown, 6'3", 19-5, takes on Brian Battle, former Ultimate Fighter winner, 12-2. Battle has been on a streak. He had the loss to Renat Fakhretdinov, but Fakhretdinov, who I've talked about at length on other shows, he's really the dark horse of that division. Got one of the best grappling games. Went to war with Ezekiel Zaleski dos Santos and also defeated Brian Battle. I think it's a matter of time before he cracks into the top 10, top 5, unless he gets too old eventually. But he's not as active. But in this battle, we have Randy Brown. I think that here's the thing with this fight with me. The Jack Della Maddalena fight with Randy Brown really is making me not want to pick Brown, because I would think that Brown is a quicker fighter than Battle. He could box him from the outside, use the leg kicks to stay at length and put volume on him, and kind of dance away and use his athleticism to a decision victory. But when I saw him against Jack Della Maddalena, Jack pressured him forward against the cage, knocked him down, and then actually submitted him. I don't think that. I think Jack's got 2 submission wins, maybe 1 submission win in his entire career. Brian Battle is better on the ground than Jack Della Maddalena. It's going to be interesting to me how much improvement we've seen in Brian Battle's striking, whether it's going to pay off against Randy Brown, or if the athleticism is going to be too much in the quarter of the Jamaican fighter.
Rude Boy is way too cocky. Every time we see him fight, he's like, I got this guy, and he does his little, strikes, his little counters, his kicks, great. He thinks he's scoring points, get the decision, and he lost. Like, well, bro, what do you think was gonna happen? Like,
yeah,
give him his respect. Here's the thing: Brian Battle is a pressure guy. He don't care about getting hit. He does not care about getting hit as long as he hates you, right? And Randy Brown prefers a cleaner fight. He prefers like almost like a you go I go type of fight. And Brian Battle's not gonna do that. Okay. Now, the funny thing about, when I think about Rude Boy, about Randy Brown, is someone that should be better than he is now, right? He's got all the tools, and he just, for some reason, doesn't seem to be pushing it to get up higher in the rankings and everything. I mean, he says he tries, but he just, when he gets in the cage, he doesn't really show it, right? We don't have any spectacular finishes or anything crazy. And Brian Battle, every time I think about him, I think about having to write his freaking media day scrum and having to figure out how many times he's going to say, you know what I'm saying? Know what I mean? Know what I'm saying? And in the span of a minute, like, I hate writing his recaps. I'm not his media day stuff, and I hate writing his post fights. Oh my God, I hate doing it. Okay. Sorry. I know it's completely, I just opened the shit out of the fourth wall. Sorry. But still, like, man, come on, Brian, stop. Anyway.
But to your point, the potential of Randy Brown, we've been talking about it since he burst on the scene. He is 6'3". He is one of the fastest fighters in the division. He does have skills on the ground and standing. A lot of people, when he came into the UFC, thought he was going to be a future title challenger. He's always fallen up short in these big contests. Against Jack Della Maddalena, it happened again. He's always been the bridesmaid, never really the bride to get to that next level. We'll see this weekend. He's got a big opportunity here with Brian Battle. If he loses to Brian Battle, I don't think that Randy Brown gets another top contender fight maybe in his career. It's probably to the back of the queue with Randy Brown if he loses this weekend.
I would agree with you. I mean, he's got 3 in a row. All credit to him. And I know he lost the Carlos Prates fight because I think they moved Carlos over to a main event at the Apex. I was very, very, very much looking forward to Prates Brown, right? Because I think if anybody was gonna make Brown fight like a fight, it was gonna be that guy. So now we gotta hope Battle does it. So yeah, it's a big fight for both guys, man. But I gotta say, man, As much
I feel
as
like someone's getting finished in this one.
They got to. You can't have a decision in this one. You can't. Randy Brown cannot afford to be boring in this one, right? Let me see. These last 3 fights, he got the knockout of Muslim Salikov, which, whatever. But
Muslim's getting older, 40 years of age.
That's what I'm saying. Although he just won his last fight, he's like, I'm still doing
this. It looked great last weekend.
Yeah, he was like, I'm in my prime, and I'm like, fam, you're older than me. Relax. Anyway, but the one determined fight, decision. The Zaleski fight, decision. The Trinaldo fight, freaking like 2 years ago, decision. Chaos Williams, decision. Do you get where I'm going with this? It's all.
Yeah, he just picks them apart at range with that length and athleticism.
The UFC's not going to give you a title shot off of that.
Yeah,
they're not. They're not at welterweight. No. So they both need to finish. So that's why he's got to put himself in danger. And when you put yourself in danger against a guy like Brian Battle, that guy will tear your kneecaps. He's like a Dan Campbell, Detroit Lions head coach. He's a Dan Campbell type of guy. If you knock me down on the way back, I'm gonna get back up, but I'm ripping your kneecap off on the way up. I'm gonna take your other leg off on the way up. He's that kind of guy, in my opinion. So
he's a guy who was 300 pounds at one point too, and got into mixed martial arts to lose weight.
The mentality you got to have to lose that weight. I'm currently in the middle of my weight cut right now to get back down 200 pounds, and it's a motherfucker. Okay, can you imagine going from 300 pounds to 170? God damn. So dude, I like Brian Battle. And I don't think he'll. There should be a finish. There should be, but I think we'll end up with a decision. But I think it'll be an entertaining decision for Battle.
Yeah, wide lines this weekend. Maybe the dogs will be barking. Brian Battle versus Randy Brown on the prelims. You're going to want to tune in early for that one. Thanks for joining us this week, fight fans. Next week, we're going to recap the UFC pay-per-view, and we'll talk any breaking news that comes over the weekend. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
I know we just closed it real quick. We forgot to talk about this. And we should look at that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can talk about this. This is supposed to be Nick Diaz.
Yes.
A real letdown for everybody. Thimba Garimbo, the guy The Rock, bought a house for, kind of had a viral moment last year. He's going to be in this contest against Vicente Luque, who's kind of been fading of late. We don't know really what he's got left in the tank. We were kind of excited for that veteran-on-veteran fight there with Nick Diaz. How much of a letdown is it for you? And do you think Luque, the opponent and stylistic difference, is going to matter at all?
No, and honestly, I'm a Thimba Garimbo believer. But I was bummed out Nick pulled, but I'm glad he did, if that makes any sense. You saw the video.
Yeah.
What is going on? Yeah.
He's trying to light grass.
Why are you trying to light grass, dog? That's not, first of all, that's not weed. And two, why are you lighting grass? The fuck are we doing? And I was immediately like, when I saw that video, dude, I was talking to Jay, our editor over at Cageside. I was talking to him and I was like, dude, they're gonna pull him. There's no way the UFC can afford to let him fight.
I think they saw it.
I think that's what happened. I think that's what happened. So either way, Thimba Garimbo comes in, awesome story, is on his way up. Vicente Luque, let's be honest, on his way out. In my opinion, the window's gone. The window's gone for him to go for a title shot, for a title, honestly, anytime soon. So unless he does something crazy today, on Saturday. But no, Thimba Garimbo, I think he's gonna get this win and everything, and it'll be. I enjoy his story a lot, so I almost root for him a little bit. But yeah, I think it'll go his way.
Yeah, I'm going to go Thimba as well. I think he's going to be able to get this fight to the ground. I think that Vicente Luque has just lost a step. He was an all-action fighter, and we've seen it in the past, guys like Clay Guida, Diego Sanchez, these guys who lay it out there all on the line. Robbie Lawler, another example. In the back half of their career, it really pays. And, will Vicente Luque have one bullet left in the gun this weekend for Thimba Garimbo? I don't know. I'm going to take Garimbo by decision in this one. I think Vicente Luque is a little bit past the prime. Too much wear on the tires for Luque for me to have to pick the fight for him.
Yeah, and I think so. I think it's going to be a decision for Thimba Garimbo as well. If he gets a finish, that'd be awesome. They get named Vicente Luque on your resume. But I think it's going to be Thimba as well.
Honestly, if I think there's a finish, I think it's probably Luque on the feet. But I think Thimba might use the athleticism and size advantage to lull him against the cage and kind of win moments and control time. But
yeah, and real quick before we go, just a couple guys I want to shout out on the early prelims. Wyman Anders. This is supposed to happen a couple last pay-per-view, and it didn't happen. They're coming in on 195 catch weight. Hopefully they actually get in there. I know nobody wants to see Wyman get hurt and knocked out again, but I think if he gets a win here, he's going to be like, Mike, drop him out of here. Going back to New York with this one. And then I'm a big fan of Joshua Van. Oh my God, Josh Van is the man. So him against Durden is going to be great.
Sick.
And then why is Clay Guida fighting Chase Hooper? That feels like if Chase Hooper wins, he beat an old guy, and Clay Guida wins, it's child abuse. What are we doing? Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm okay with the fight, but still. But yeah, that's all I want to say.
Yeah, it's hard for Clay. You know, he's fought everybody. You want to see him in the fights with Jim Miller and all these guys, and then you realize he's fought Jim Miller, and you realize he's fought all these guys. There's not many people left for Clay Guida to compete against, but you know, I honestly like Chase Hooper in that fight. When you look at Guida, he's struggled against elite grapplers sometimes. He always takes the fight to the ground regardless of his opponent. He fights his own game. He's not going to you know, go in there and fight differently based on his opponent. He's going to use what he brings to the table and use it well. But we saw that against Claudio Puelles. He took him down and immediately got knee barred. We've seen him get submitted recently in the past as well. I think if this fight hits the ground, Chase Hooper is going to be able to lock in a submission. I think he's just so much longer than Clay. Here you see it, 5'7" to 6'1", 70 inches in reach to 74. That's going to play a big factor if he gets top control on the ground. I like Chase Hooper in this one. I think he could get it done by submission.
Yeah, I think he could too. Honestly, I don't really care who wins this fight. I think Chase Hooper does by you know, his ground game and everything. I just hope Clay Guida grew his hair out, because it's fun to see him do this shit when his hair is freaking up and down. I'm like, let's go, Clay. Like, I mean, back in the day, like, you know, when he was actually young, like, that shit was fun for me. I was watching the you know, fights at home and everything. Like, every time he came in doing this shit like a hard cardio machine, never stopped.
Him and Diego Sanchez, you just sitting there stalking him, and it's just
oh, I miss old school Clay Guida. Folks, if you have not watched this, go on UFC Papa, go on YouTube. Just type Clay Guida, whatever year you want. Look up his topology record and just watch him. It's hilarious to watch him fight, and he's good. So, and honestly, I think this probably would be the swan song for him, but we'll see.
Also, one of the best pre-fight entrances. Yes. He's got his brother there. Yeah. He sits there and smacks him in the face like 5 times in a row to get him amped. It's pretty crazy.
Power slap his brother. Okay, we're gonna get stupid. Let's put his brother in power slap. He slaps like a motherfucker.
For real. All right, fight fans, that's our coverage of UFC 310 this weekend and our recap of the PFL World Championships from last weekend. We'll see you next time. We're going to review the UFC 310 pay-per-view, and we'll bring you any breaking news that happens over the weekend as well. Thanks for joining us.